You voted and the results are in. The top 10 must-add players for this week in fantasy baseball is coming up next on Beat the Odds. Don't go anywhere. Hello sports fans and welcome back to another episode of Beat the Odds. I've got your top 10 hottest players to pick up for week 17 in fantasy baseball. And I want to thank all of you for casting 567 total votes this week, which was the driving force behind this list. Now, before I reveal the list, if you're a fan of this content, please smash that like button. And if you're new here and appreciate quality fantasy baseball insights, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so that way you don't miss an episode. Also, keep an eye out for the polls on who you should be picking up ahead of week 18. Do you have a burning fantasy baseball question? Ask me on Q. Go to askmeonq.com/beattheodds, submit your question, and for a small fee, I will personalize a response and send it to your email. It's super easy to do, and it's a great way to get fantasy baseball advice while also supporting this channel. Now let's kick off this list at number 10. We have Tyler Stevenson, 28% owned, 56% of the catcher's votes this week. 4 runs scored, a homer, a run batted in, and a 208 average over the last 2 weeks. Now I always include a catcher on my lists. So even though he hasn't had a good couple of weeks at the plate, we still need to include Mr. Stevenson. It's worth saying that I'm not scared off by the notion of rostering him, as I still picked up a couple shares of him in my leagues this past week. The sell sheet on Stevenson is the same. He's capable at the plate, hitting in the middle of the lineup of a dynamic team that calls it Great Hitters Park home. Let's go to number 9. We have Jeffrey Springs, 38% owned, 21% of the starters' votes this week. He has, of course, been injured, but Springs is next in the list of high-profile pitchers who are set to make their season debuts, as he's going to be taking them out against the Marlins on Tuesday. Those who might be picking up fantasy baseball for the first time may not be too familiar with Springs, but he was one of the league's best pitchers before Tommy John surgery ended his season in April of 2023. He has the potential to be a top 20 starting pitcher the rest of the way. Moving on to number 8, we have Juan Yepez, 36% owned, 25% of the infielders' votes this week. 8 runs scored, 2 homers, 8 runs batted in, a stolen base, and a .412 average over the last 2 weeks. After a failed stint in St. Louis, Yepez has resurfaced in a productive spot for the young national squad. He's taken over as the cleanup hitter and has done an excellent job putting bat to ball. Now, he's always been a contact-first hitter, and through 70 plate appearances with the Nationals, he's got an expected batting average of .310. Currently, high batting average players are much harder to find and are getting more and more valuable. Let's go to number 7. We have Jeff McNeil, 43% owned, 24% of the infielders' votes this week. 8 runs scored, 4 homers, 12 runs batted in, a stolen base, and a .371 average over the last 2 weeks. Now, I've always had a bit of a sore spot for McNeil. Even though he's been a great contact hitter his entire career, he hasn't really contributed much to the power and speed categories for fantasy managers. This season, he has struggled to make consistent contact and was all but written off for fantasy rosters, but with the recent show of power that he's had, he might be a useful piece for fantasy rosters down the stretch. Let's go to number 6. We have Hayden Birdsong, 26% owned, a win, 15 strikeouts, a 2.45 ERA, and a .82 whip. San Francisco's number 6 prospect, Birdsong has made a splash in his brief time in the majors. He presents a nice 4-pitch mix, highlighted by a 96-mile-per-hour fastball and a nasty curveball that his opponents have yet to collect a hit on, and it has accounted for 16 of his 30 strikeouts so far. With the Giants' rotation starting to get healthy, it's difficult to say if Birdsong will be able to stick with the club, but he's certainly worth a look with how he's been pitching lately. Moving on to number 5, we have Robbie Ray, 60% owned, 42% of the starters' votes this week, a win, 8 strikeouts, a 1.80 ERA, and a .40 whip. The fact that Ray is still available in 40% of leagues has me questioning if everybody has just moved over to fantasy football. The proverbial tight pant grunting starting pitcher quickly dispatched the suddenly average Los Angeles Dodgers, picking up the win with 5 no-hit innings and 8 strikeouts. There's no reason to think that Ray can't become the team's ace to close out the year. Moving on to number 4, we have Chad Green, 48% owned, a win, 2 saves, 4 strikeouts, no ERA, and a .16 whip over the last 2 weeks. Now, I broke protocol with Chad Green as he wasn't featured on this week's polls, but with the departure of Jimmy Garcia to the Mariners and Jordan Romano's move to the 60-day IL, that's going to give Green the runway to saves for the Jays. Green's fastball has been effective as opponents are hitting only .137 against it. He hasn't had a whole lot of closing experience though, but with the Jays in sell mode, he's the best arm for the job. Moving on to number 3, we have Max Schumann, 54% owned, 31% of the infielders' votes this week. 12 runs scored, a homer, 6 runs batted in, a stolen base, and a .371 average over the last 2 weeks. Now, Monty Max has been the recipient of a lot of runs scored ahead of red-hot hitters Lawrence Butler and Brent Rooker. Schumann has done a great job turning over the lineup by hitting .400 over his last 46 plate appearances. The Athletics lineup has been one of the league's best in July, so if they are hot, Schumann is going to have value. But he's going to be an easy drop candidate if that well dries up. Let's go to number 2. We have Jake Berger, 55% owned, 41% of the infielders' votes here this week. 8 runs scored, 4 homers, 8 runs batted in, and a .351 average over the last 2 weeks. Now, Berger's season has started to heat up with the summer weather. He's hit 6 of his 13 home runs this month while raising his OPS 83 points. It is a possibility that Berger ends up on a new team after Tuesday's trade deadline, but as it stands, he is the best hitter in the most productive spot of an anemic offense. If he remains a Marlin, you can count on his fantasy floor being quite high. And finally, at number 1, we have Tyler Fitzgerald, 60% owned, 56% of the outfielders' votes this week. 10 runs scored, 6 homers, 11 runs batted in, and a .500 average over the last 2 weeks. Now, talk about an unexpected surprise. Well, sort of. For those who are following Fitzgerald in Sacramento, you would have noticed a spike in power production as he hit 8 homers and only 71 at-bats before getting his call-up. We'll tack on another 9 since his return, including 8 homers in his last 11 games. He has a solid batting profile, able to hit for a good average, and the pop is obviously real. And so is the speed, as he boasts a 98th percentile sprint speed. And that's going to do it here for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video and of course subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'm going to sign off for now, but I'm going to catch you guys on the next episode.